Okay, so yesterday we were looking at parallel lines and angles, right? So I need to guide you to do these questions. All right, so let's look at the first one. Whenever you're doing geometry questions, you need to identify the rules that can be applied to a particular case, right? So in this case now, we have a couple of angles. Two of them are labeled. We know these angles with 27, with 85, but we're supposed to find A, B, and C. Now, before you attempt this question, you must be in a position to recall or list all the rules that can be applied here. In this instance, we don't have parallel lines, so the only rules I can think of are these ones. So we have these vertically opposite angles, and we also have angles on a straight line. So these are the two rules that can be applied to this case. Now, what I am gonna do is I'll help you find all these angles. Boipelo, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. And how are you, sir?
I'm fine. You can just take a screenshot of these questions and then do them and send them to me. And
Okay,
yeah,
sir.
you can mute. You don't have to listen to what I'm doing if you already have some background, because I'm gonna be doing all these questions. And I want to see if you can do those ones as well. So just take a picture of this one, just the left-hand side,
Okay, sir.
and also take a picture of this one, the right-hand side. And this is the last time we're doing these parallel lines. So 5, 6, 7, 8. So by the time we're done with this lesson, you should have completed all these questions. And then you can even use the video to get the answers to see whether you got them correct. So I don't know, maybe you can just reduce the volume so that you won't hear me explaining this.
Okay, sir.
All right, perfect. So for us to find A, I'm sure you can see that A is part of a straight line. And this is the straight line I'm talking about. 27A and 85 are on a straight line. So we can say A plus 27 plus 85 is equal to 180. And then from this equation, we can get our value of A. All right. If you have your calculators ready, you can also be cross-checking with me, but I'm going to try and do everything. So make sure you punch those figures, and then if I make a mistake, you can correct me. So it's 180 minus 85 minus 27. We get 68. So I assume that you know how to do change of subject or formula. So we're getting A as 68. So A is simply 180 minus these two angles. So now that we have A and A is 68, we need to find the other angles B and C. All right. So the only way we can find B is if we use the vertically opposite angles. This red line that I drew and this guy, they're forming some kind of an X. They're forming vertically opposite angles. And from this rule, we say that vertically opposite angles are equal. So B is going to be what? 68 as well. Because A and B are vertically opposite angles. They're forming some kind of an X. So these guys are equal. All right. So now we move on to find C. If you look at this closely, C is forming vertically opposite angles with the other two lines. That's one way we can do that. So C is equal to 85 plus 87. Or if we don't want to do that, we know that B and C are on a straight line. So B and C must give you 180. So C is 180 degrees minus B. C is 180 degrees minus 68. So 180 degrees minus 68 degrees, we get 112. So C is 112. Are we together? So I'm
Yes,
going to
sir.
leave this time for questions. Anyone confused about number 1 so that we can proceed? Maya, you good? Okay, Lisa, you good?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to erase this since we're going to be posting this video. Okay. All right, maybe not the rule, so that we can refer to it later on. Okay, now we're on number 2. So number 1 and number 2 are not that different. We're simply going to use the same rules. We don't have any parallel lines, so the rules that we'll be using is only these 2, and maybe if you want the third one, it can be all angles around a point add up to 360. Are we together? So let's look at this. You need to start with the easiest angle for you, okay? And if I look at this, I'm looking for the X angles, and I can see them, though it might not be clear like at first glance. I can see that D and 70 are forming vertically opposite angles. So we have 70 there and we have D. So these guys are equal. So D is equal to 70 degrees. Okay, now we move on. E is also creating vertically opposite angles with 95. So if you look at it closely, we have that line forming the boundary for E and that line. So these are vertically opposite angles. These are X angles. So E is also going to be 95. Now we just need to find F. And the way we can find F is if we use angles on a straight line, right? So let me get rid of this. D, E, and F are on a straight line. This is the straight line. D from that point to that point. E, F from that point to that point. And then the last guy, E from that point to that point. If we connect these 3 arrows, we'll get a straight line. So D plus E plus F equals 180. And we substitute the values that we know. We know D is 70 plus E 95 plus F must give us 180. They are on a straight line. So 70 plus 95. Let's do that. 95 plus 70. We get 165. So 165 plus F is equal to 180. So what is the value of F? We just transpose this guy. So we get F equals 180 minus 165. And our F is going to be what? 15 degrees. So F is 15 degrees. So this is what you need to understand. It doesn't matter the order in which you do, you solve these problems. Just make sure you're using a valid rule, a justified rule. Then that's fine. Now let's move on to the next part. We're going to do number 3 and number 4. Any questions on number 2 before I proceed?
No, sir.
Okay, perfect. All right. Welcome, Sipo. Okay. So I'm recording this video and I'm gonna be posting it on YouTube so that you understand. So for that reason, I'll be doing all these questions, explaining how I'll get the answers. And then you'll be in a position to do those other exercises I gave you and to correct yourself. Now we're at number 3, right? The first thing you're going to notice here on number 3 is that we have parallel lines. How do I know that we have parallel lines? We have these tiny arrows on the lines. So parallel lines are lines that never meet. Let me do it this way. Parallel lines are lines which never meet. And whenever we have parallel lines, oh, now it's fighting me. Okay. It should be right about here. Okay. Whenever we have these parallel lines, we've established some rules. And I'm going to remind you of some of the most important rules when you're dealing with parallel lines. So a line that crosses the parallel lines is called a transversal line. And we have this rule, the rule for alternate angles. They form some kind of a Z shape and they are equal. And we have another rule. I feel like it's just good to focus on just 2 rules. We have corresponding angles or F angles. F angles will form some kind of an F. So this angle and this angle are F angles. They are at corresponding positions and they are equal. And of course, we can have co-interior angles, but we'll leave that for now. Okay, so now we need to find G. How can we find G? There are 2 ways in which we can find G. The first one is to use the vertically opposite angles. If you look at this closely, G is forming vertically opposite angles with 21 and 114. So this value is exactly equal to G. So how can we get G? We simply add 21 and 114. We're going to get our G being what? 135 by using that rule. Another way of doing it, if you don't want to use this, you can find something that has not been asked of. So if you look at it this way, that's a straight line. So you can try to find this guy. And once you get that guy, you can find G by also using the fact that the transversal line is a straight line. Are we together? But it's always advised to use the easiest method. It's always advised to use the fastest method. So I'm going to go with the vertically opposite angle, but yeah, make sure you pay attention to that. Here it's not just one angle. It's like both of them are combined to give us G. They are both vertically opposite to G. So G is going to be 135. Okay, that's fine. Now, how can we find H? All right. Since I want to limit you to just these 2 laws, we can find H in this way. Let's try to implement, we can implement our co-interior angle, not our co-interior angles. I don't want you to use that for now. We can implement our corresponding angles. Can you see that G is actually corresponding? G is forming corresponding angles with this guy because they are forming some kind of an F. The angle just below H. So if G is 135, then H is what? The guy below F, H is 135 because these are corresponding angles. All right. Now we can find H. How can we find H? H and 135 must give us 180 degrees. They are on a straight line. So let me show you the straight line in blue. So this is the straight line that we're talking about. And we're limiting it just to this point. So H and the red dot are on a straight line. They're on the right-hand side of our straight line. They should give us 180. So blue plus red equals 180. Blue is H plus red, which is 135. Should give you 180. So our H is 180 minus 135. And let's see what we can get. 180 minus 135. We're going to get 45 degrees. So now that we know that H is 45 degrees, Lisa, how can we find I? How can we find I? Are you there, Lisa? Lisa is gone. Boipelo, how can we find I? Oh, Boipelo is actually busy with those papers. Sipo? Sipo, how can we find I? All right. For you to find I, you're going to use vertically opposite angles. You're going to use this rule, the X angles. I like the X angles because they are easy to identify. Whenever you have two lines intersecting, we have these angles being formed. Some form of an hourglass or something like that. These angles are equal. So if H is 45, then I is also 45 degrees. And then that's it. All right. Now, we're going to move on to the next part. I'm going to find, I'm going to do the whole of number 4 on this. So let's create some space. And now let's look at this one. Okay. All right. So now we have a tricky situation here. We have our parallel lines. So the laws of the parallel lines can be applied. But here they just gave us this outer angle. There's another law that we need to implement. If we have a complete revolution, then that's 360 degrees, right? So here, if we add that 312 degrees to this guy, the blue angle, we can form a complete circle. So a complete circle or a complete revolution is 360 degrees. So J plus 312 degrees must give you 360. So J is equal to 360 degrees minus 312. And let's see what we're going to get. 360 minus 312. We're getting 48. So we get 48 degrees. So J is going to be 48 degrees. All right. Now, how can we find the values of K and L? Now I'm only restricting you to those rules. And the first rule that we must implement is the F angles, right? If you look at it closely, this angle and that angle are equal. They are forming some kind of an F. It's an upside down inverted F, but it's still an F. So K is going to be 48 degrees. Let me show you that in blue. So K is also what? 48 degrees. Why? Because K is forming corresponding angles with J. Corresponding angles are equal. So these guys are exactly identical. Even by just looking at them, you can say, these angles are actually what? The same. Okay, now how can we find L? So we can find letter L by using angles on a straight line. So therefore, L plus 48, since they are on a straight line, the red highway, right? They are above the highway. If the lines are above the highway or below the highway, they should add up to what? To 180. So L and 48 should give you 180, our highway. So we can get L by saying 180 degrees minus 48. So letter L is going to be what? So 180 minus 48. It's going to be 132 degrees. And we're done. So that's 132 degrees. And that's perfect. So this is how we do these parallel lines. I'm going to move on to the slightly advanced parallel lines. I feel like we still have some time. So let's do the advanced stuff. Okay. Right. Sometimes you might be having a series of parallel lines, not just 2, but 3, 4, 5 lines can be parallel. So in this case, on number 5, we have 3 parallel lines. This is the first guy, that's the second guy, and that's the third guy. All these lines are parallel, and the rules of parallel lines can be applied to all of them since they have the same transversal line. So that line is our transversal line. So normally what you want to do is don't focus on what you're being asked. Just find the angles you can as fast as possible. And then everything will be easy for you. So here, I can see this is some kind of an X. So this guy is what? 142. And then this guy and the 142, they are on the green highway, above the green highway. So they must give me 180, right? So 142 plus the green guy equals 180. So the green guy is gonna be 180 minus 142. So the green guy is gonna be what? I think it's gonna be 38. So this is 38. All right. So we got 38 there. So now, how are we going to get these answers, N and M? The only way we can get those answers is if we continue to transpose to find all these other angles. So if you look at it this way, 38 is exactly identical to this one. their co-interior angles. So we have 38 here, and we have 148. Not 148, 142. Why? These angles are exactly at corresponding points. They are forming some kind of an F angle. If you look at it this way, the red angles are forming this F going down, and the blue and green angles are also forming an F going up. Like that. There we go. So that is why I'm saying that we have 38 and 38 there. And we also have 142 and 142 there. So now when we move to the third parallel line, we're still going to use corresponding angle. These guys are at corresponding positions. So this can be thought of as a blue guy again. It's forming an F angle with that 38 degrees. So N is 38 degrees. And then if we want to find M, we can say 180 minus 38. We can use our corresponding angles. M is corresponding or is at a corresponding position to the red guys. So M is going to be 142. And that is how we get the answers to that one. Any questions before I proceed?
No, sir.
All right, perfect. Now let's move on. All right, so when we look at number 6, bear in mind that in geometry, sometimes it's allowed for you to make certain constructions. Here, our parallel lines are disjoint. We don't even have a single transversal line, so we can't apply our rule here. The only thing that we can do to help us solve this problem is if we construct another parallel line right in the middle here. So now we can use these two, line number 1 and line number 2, and we can use line number 2 and line number 3 independently. Another way to do that is also to try and construct it this way, but I doubt if it will give us the correct answers. You can extend one of the lines like that, and then try to find this guy, try to find that guy, try to find that guy, and you get that guy, and boom, that's fine. So you are allowed to make certain constructions when you're dealing with parallel lines. Okay, so let me go with the most common construction. And this is when you can actually create a line parallel to the other lines that you have. So I'm going to construct it this way. And the other way was most probably going to be the easier one. But anyway, let's do it this way. So if you focus on line 1 and line 2, right? We need to find this angle. But I was limiting you to only two rules. You can't get a Z angle there. You can't get an F angle there. So it's very hard for you to get that red dot. Okay. So now how can we get the red dot? And I don't want us to use the triangle. I don't want us to construct a triangle. So we need to implement the third rule that I've been trying to avoid. But anyways, it's high time that you know about it. So when you have your parallel lines, each side of the parallel line is forming some kind of a C. I'll have to call them C angles. C angles add up to 180. This guy and this guy are C angles, they add up to 180. Okay. All right, C angles add up to 180. But the technical name for C angles is not actually C. They are called co-interior angles. They add up to what? To 180. So if you look at C and the green dot, they are co-interior. They are together on the inner part of our parallel lines. They should add up to 180. So this is going to make our green dot what? 100 degrees. I almost said 100 degrees Celsius. So that's 100. Because this guy and that guy are co-interior when we look at it from this point. When we focus on the parallel lines 1 and 2. So 80 plus the green dot must give you 180. So the green dot is 180 minus 80. That is where I got the 100 degrees. Okay. Now, let's move on to the last part. We need to find this guy, and we don't have any clue. So the best thing we must do is to find that guy. So since all these angles are around a point, they are forming some kind of a circle. We know that these angles should give us what? Should add up to 360. So for you to find that guy, let me do it here. You're going to say 135 plus the blue dot plus the green dot must give you what? 180 degrees. So in this case, we already know that the green dot is 100 degrees. So we'll say no, it must give you 360, not 180. It must give you 360. So you're going to say 360 minus 100 minus 135 to get that blue guy. So the blue guy is equal to what? Let me quickly do that. 360 minus 100 minus 135. So the blue guy is 125. So now that you know the blue guy, 125 degrees, you can easily find what? P. The blue guy is 125 degrees. Using the Z angles, this is going to be 125. And then P is going to be 180 minus 125. So I'll leave you to that to find the actual value of P. But that is all you need to know about parallel lines. And I feel after this, you should be in a position to answer those questions I sent you. So for number 7 and 8, you must still need to do some constructions. Construct a parallel line like that. Construct a parallel line like that. And then you can find these guys. You can find these guys. And you know that that is 90 degrees. So I'll leave number 7 and 8 for you to attempt, but I've already made the constructions for you. So do you have any questions? We're left with about a minute. Any questions? All right. Hello, any questions? Let me try to message him. Okay. So if you don't have any questions now, I think you are in a position, just rewatch this video and then answer the questions I gave you. Yesterday, I gave you a bunch of questions with clues. And the day before that, I gave you like questions without clues. So make sure you answer all those questions and you submit them. If you're facing any challenges, you can just message me. And I think
All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. I'm ending this lesson now and I'll upload the video soon. All right, bye.
Bye, sir. Enjoy your day.